So good afternoon, everybody. And this is the third webinar for our inspirational journeys, alumni journeys. I'd like to welcome Maryse Gordon this afternoon, which is lovely to see you again. She's an alum, and the webinar's, the title is A Journey Through Finance, Diversity and Sustainability. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Happy International Women's Day, everyone.
Yes, exactly, and it's very well timed, our webinar tonight. So happy International Women's Day, everybody. So this afternoon it's going to be recorded, just to tell everybody, and also we'll have some time at the end for questions. If you have any questions as we go along, just pop them in the Q&A function or on the chat function, and we'll try and answer them at the end. We'll have a sort of 10-minute session at the end, going through them. So little bit about our inspirational alum, Maryse here. She has worked in financial services between London and New York for over 15 years, gained a wealth of experience and knowledge ranging from product and business development to project management and support work. She started her career in Hewlett Packard, progressing to Logica and then onto the London Stock Exchange Group, where she spent 10 years working across the global regulatory, compliance, risk management, data solutions, fixed income analysis, and going into ESG and sustainable investments. So busy. She has been played an active role in her last job at the London Stock Exchange in women's and Black employees networks, particularly in the London Stock Exchange Group, which we'll hear a little bit more about that. And she was actually awarded first on the EMpower Ethnic Minority Role Model list in 2021 as a future leader. And previously she also won in 2017 the Markets Media Women in Technology Rising Star in Regulation Award, amongst other awards I could mention. But welcome here. That's great to see you, and I know you've got a wonderful, interesting career so far, which I'm sure will continue. And it's just it was just really interesting going back into your time at Brooks, since you know we're hosting for Brooks here, and thinking about what was your first step at Brooks? What was your what courses did you study?
So this was back in when did I start? 2002. I was studying computer science and performing arts. So I did a joint weekly campus. Oh, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, just there. There was a little bit of a lag, but yeah.
I was saying I studied computer science and performing arts. I was between the Wheatley campus and Headington Hill, I believe it was. And I did that. That was a 3-year course with a 1-year break.
I can hear that. But so you had a 3-year course with a 1-year extra. Did you apply placement year?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh wow. So that's an interesting combination, isn't there? That's quite a different two strands put together. How has that taken you forward, and how have you used that in your future careers? What is that? What have you been able to take forward in those two different modular strands?
Well, I mean, as you said, they are very, very different, but I think they do really complement each other, particularly in the work that I'm doing. So my career has always been, well, it started off in the frame of technology and software development, and then it kind of evolved into more client-facing roles. And so when you're in front of a client, you end up kind of performing anyway. You're representing the company, you're representing a product, you're representing yourself. And so there's a bit of a platform that you're on to kind of present material or present information. So that performing arts element, that kind of confidence and being able to remember scripts and navigate your way around technology, and marrying those two together is, again, like a very unique thing in industry as well. But so far it served me really good.
Yeah. No, I can see those two now. You're saying that would work well, actually, with the presentation styles and the training. Yeah, it's interesting. So tell me a bit about your journey. I mean, I gave you a little introduction, and we've met a bit before, obviously. And what was your first step? So into you was into Hewlett Packard. How did you make those decisions where to go career wise?
So I can't remember how I came across Hewlett Packard, but I think I must have been looking at places that do university internships. And I knew that I wanted to work in technology. That was obviously what I was primarily focusing on. And performing arts was more of a hobby I couldn't really give up, but I was able to kind of continue to study it at Brooks because it was one of the I think, only universities that allowed you to kind of pair the two together. So I did know that my career I would probably need to be focused within that field, particularly for the goals that I had in my life. So I must have applied for a placement at Hewlett Packard. It was in Bristol. So it was on site in their Bristol tape drive division. And so I was there for a year, and I remember I was helping them port coding from an old platform to a new platform. So it was I can't remember what the old platform was, but we were moving it into Linux, and it had to be coded in C++. Maybe actually been C. It might have been that long ago. It might have just been C. But it was, again, like an evolution in technology at that time, and we were moving on to this new platform. So I was part of the team that would help with that migration. And I also built some testing solutions as well for their tape drive divisions too. I was there. And that was the kind of first real introduction to like the corporate world and really understanding like what that meant. And it was also the first time I really saw more than just the day job. You know, they had like a little social network, and they did like Christmas pantomimes, and I'd get involved in that, and they would help like school children with internships, and I'd get involved in that as well. So it was really quite a nice way to be introduced to the corporate world. So once that finished, I then went back to Brooks and finished my final year. And then following that, I applied for graduate programs at a number of different firms. And I got into, at the time they were called Logica, they're now called CGI. And I got into Logica, so I was part of their graduate recruitment program. And that normally is like a 2-year thing, and then you kind of move on into like full-time employment with the. So that kind of started off. I was there as a software developer again. I was working in the financial services technology division. I was kind of coding some protocol messages for some of the like very large banks. And again, there was an exercise there around porting. So we had like an old interface that was being ported to a new, more savvy like Java front end. And so I was part of that porting exercise. And really there is where I kind of, you know, I got exposure to a lot of things. And I think I was a very social person, and the company was kind of, or at least my team was picking up on the fact that I had all these technical skills and software skills, but I was very good at talking to people. And so I began doing product training, and that was my first like international experience at that point as well. So I got sent to Canada, I think, and I also got sent to India to do training for some clients and staff members as well. And that just continued to evolve, really. I became product manager, and I was doing support. And then I moved into business development and kind of not sales, but pre-sales, so sales support. And that was very much around becoming like the expert on the software, and really being able to articulate benefits and needs, and helping the sales team with new sales of products, but being that kind of like, I guess, product expert behind the scenes, and sharing that knowledge. So I was there for 5 years. And at the end of that, I got picked up by the London Stock Exchange Group, and I spent 10 wonderful years with those guys. And that was, again, I introduced myself there as a pre-sales consultant. So I, again, was supporting the sales team. So it was very much focused on regulation and reporting. So I had access to a lot of data and analytics, and that was what I was learning and understanding the functional, technical, regulatory side of things, understanding business, and then understanding clients, and marrying that all together to then provide them with a solution that we would be selling them regarding like regulatory reporting needs around the globe. So I was there for 4 years, and then I got moved over to America to kind of help them expand business in that particular jurisdiction. So the North American market was something that I was leading at the time. And again, in that same kind of pre-sales and business development capacity. So I did that for another 4 years in New York. And then I decided, I got the business to, as much as I could do at that point in time, and I was looking for a change. And then I moved into the space of fixed income analytics and also ESG as well. So that's where I kind of really learned about sustainable finance and sustainable business. And then decided that that was something that I was really passionate about. Like, it really married to a lot of my morals. I had a lot of experience within financial services, but this is a sector that really allowed me to kind of make an impact and change. And it was something that was, becoming a very big global movement at the time. So it was a very innovative subject and very relevant subject that I wanted to be a part of. So after 2 years working in that team, I then decided that I was going to leave New York and leave LSE and really pursue that as a career. And I joined Rep Risk in December of last year. So I've been a few months into that. And now starting on the sustainable finance journey, which I'm thoroughly enjoying.
Brilliant. So it's been you've tried quite a few different strands to the data sort of finance world for a few years, and you've come to your sustainable data, and it's your career's evolving, hasn't it? Which is great. You've picked up the bits that you like and moved on, and it sounds like it's going to be, it's going to continue to be a wonderful journey. I'm interested in a bit about all these awards you've been winning. So I've obviously I did mention about the EMpower Ethnic Minority Role Model Future Leader award, and I was interested a bit around what happened around that. Was that a sort of award that was put forward by your team as a showing your good work, or how did it come about, and what was the situation about that?
Yeah, so I've won a couple of awards, and I've been shortlisted like top 5 for a few as well, which has been really cool, from a variety of different things. So initially, the first one I won was a Rising Star Award, and so that kind of profiles certain people who are, I guess, making waves and they're kind of early in their career, and so they get some recognition for that. And the last one I just won, which you mentioned, was the EMpower. It was sponsored by Yahoo Finance, and it was the Future Role Models Award. It was like a top 100 future role models for the ethnic minority group. And I placed number 1 on that, which was really remarkable. And both of those, and the ones I were shortlisted from as well, have all they were all nominations from my company. So they very much kind of recognized the work that I was doing. And I think both for the business area that I was working in, but also for the company at large as well, particularly when it came to things like diversity and inclusion. And so, there's a lot of industry kind of groups that put together these sorts of awards for recognition for work that people are doing in their actual day job, which is what the Rising Star one was for. And then those that are kind of doing more than just their day job and what they're contributing. And that's where the diversity and inclusion stuff came into play for myself. They were both nominations from my company, and it was really a great honor to receive that for sure.
Yeah, well done. It's it's great to see and read about those awards. And thinking about around the work you were when you were at the London Stock Exchange, I know you were key in a lot of diversity groups and setting up support groups. How did you tell me a bit more about that work, and what were the beginnings of those? What were the reasons they, obviously there was a need, but how did you see that need? How did you start being involved in the diversity and support groups in the London Stock Exchange?
So I initially kind of came across it from a gender perspective. So just before I was leaving London for New York, the company had established a women's network at the company. So I was kind of just getting involved in that as a member, and learning about what they were trying to do to help kind of raise gender diversity and representation within the organization. So it was a very, I mean, financial services has historically been a very male dominated environment. If you look at a lot of the senior leadership within organizations, they could be a very similar demographic. And so the first kind of, thing, and I think it, Me Too kind of helped propel that as well, the Me Too movement. People were starting, or at least organizations were starting to look at gender inequality issues, and wanting to create ways of changing that, and helping improve and level out opportunities for people within organizations. So they started the Women's Inspired Network. I was a member. I got moved over to New York, and then I joined the New York chapter of that group. It was like a global employee network, and I was a member for New York. And that, after a while of kind of just participating, I was asked if I would lead the New York chapter. So that was my kind of first real responsibility in, D&I initiatives, was to kind of be responsible for all the New York employees and what we were doing regarding gender equality, specifically for women within the company. And it was very much about, one, highlighting the issues that women face in the organization, and then making recommendations to help, remove that, things around unconscious bias training, etc. But also, helping to elevate women in the company as well. So giving them a platform to showcase their talent, giving them access to education and networking and mentoring and sponsorship that would then kind of give them opportunity to then start to climb the ladder in the organization. So, much of the work I was doing was around helping establish those networks and those frameworks, and creating opportunities for the women in New York to, really elevate themselves and also elevate their careers. So I did that for many years, and the entire time I was at LSE actually. And then as COVID kind of kicked in, and then we were hit with this George Floyd murder in the US. So I was present there in the US at that time, and I remember that weekend kind of happening and thinking, like, all of our Black employees are going to go to work tomorrow and be asked, how was your weekend? And pretend like they are not really hurting right now, because it was very traumatic to sit and watch what was happening, and all these protests, and this kind of like unload of, this is how people are treated here, and this is how Black people are treated all around the world, in society, in corporations, like in, whatever it may be. And we had no real voice to talk about that in the workplace. And throughout my entire career, like, race has never been anything that's been brought up. Like, that there's issues and things happen, but it wasn't a subject of conversation in the workplace. And this one weekend changed that entire thing. So, I remember writing to our senior leaders and saying, look, we don't have any network in the US that's going to support any of these employees. And we're going to have a lot of problems tomorrow, and a lot of stress and trauma that is going to be felt while people are trying to do their Monday morning meeting, and we need to acknowledge that and give people space. And so that kind of led to them reacting and putting out a message of like support to the organization, and then saying to me, would you like help us establish this a Black employees network, because this is a subject that we need to address, and we need to have enough support and understanding on what that is. So very similar to the Women's Network, we then launched the Black Employees Network, and I was responsible for that with two other colleagues in the Americas. So it already existed in the UK at that time, but it wasn't something that was in the US. I'd been asked about it, and I just thought, we don't really talk about race, like, don't worry about it. And I was kind of focused on the women's network at that time. But that point there was when I was like, no, this definitely needs to have a voice. And, I think I had a big enough profile to help it kind of like launch quickly in the organization. So I was really happy to lend my ear to be able to support that, and, really, really make a big impact to the way that, Black employees saw themselves and were seen at the organization, and, help them kind of really level out again opportunities for all types of employees to climb the ladder in the company.
And so the learning for you, you've obviously, there was quite a lot of different projects within that project, as it were. So you gained quite a lot of different experience doing those, setting up those groups, and sort of advocacy, etc.
Yeah, definitely. And they're really interesting because there's so many different communities at work, and it's really important to feel like you belong in the environment that you're working in, and that you're going to be treated fairly, and you're not going to be kind of marginalized in any kind of way. And even if it's not an obvious kind of pushing you out of opportunities, a lot of the times people get opportunities because of their friends or because of who they know and stuff like that. And so you really do have to create a level playing field for everybody, because not everybody's in that in circle. So I think some of those networks, whether it's sexual orientation, religion, race, gender, like there's so many different parodies. Age is another thing as well, that really do face adversity sometimes. And so if you can bring that voice to the organization to help educate them to recognize where there are issues that could occur, and then also where there are gaps within their career pipeline and development, where people are falling out, it's important to help them really unravel that, because diversity is so important to successful companies.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's I can, that sounds like it's a brilliant project to be able to have taken over to the American office, and sounds like you have definitely a lot of support for it and a need for it as well. Can you see a legacy in that group? Is it continued, and it's going? You're keeping in contact with everybody?
Yeah. They ended up, I mean, it was such an important thing to the company. They ended up hiring a diversity and inclusion head of the company. We didn't have that before. So they were really, really taking it seriously. And that was also a big shift in many organizations at that point too, that they started hiring people to specifically work on D&I. So yeah, the work always starts from the employees, but then as soon as it kind of gets higher visibility in the organization, it really has to be top down. So it was great to kind of see that as I left, the D&I kind of team was being set up as from a company perspective, as opposed to just employees trying to do a good thing.
Yeah. I mean it's the same in Brooks. We've now got a D&I director. Well, there's one being advertising, there was a role, and we've got the Black Staff Network. So I can see it at Brooks, which is great. And we've got webinars, and I'm sure there's more to do. Maybe you can advise us.
Oh yeah, of course, anything.
Yeah, so that sounds great. It's very interesting. And I suppose obviously with you're busy thinking about your work and how busy you are with your job, and also your extra work, extra projects that you have passion for and have developed. How do you work on a sort of life balance? Do you have what other things? How do you have that downtime? Do you get downtime?
I do, actually. I think I've been very fortunate that I've never felt like I've ever been a slave to my job. I don't know if that's just because I've been very lucky in the environments I've worked in, but I've always enjoyed what I'm doing, and so I'm happy to give it more time, and I'm happy to step away from it as well to give myself a break. And I think I've also been fortunate that I've worked for organizations that don't clock you in, right? 9 o'clock, 5 o'clock. First of all, I'm never on time, so that is always been an issue if I'm going to be watched for that. But I remember the days of Logico, and I would stay there till 10 o'clock at night. And if anyone online is a software developer, when you're trying to debug something, you just cannot switch off until you fixed it. So I would stay there till 10 o'clock sometimes, and then the next day you'd probably see me around 11, coming in after taking the morning off to get back to myself. So I think I've always been really conscious of that, and not overworking myself so much that I end up hating what I'm doing. And then aside from just that as a general habit and practice in work in general, I practice well-being and mindfulness quite a lot. I go to the gym a lot. I'm very much involved in sports activities. And moving to the States actually made me kind of really discover my love for the outdoors. So hiking and running and, traveling to various different lakes and mountains and all that kind of stuff, I really value. So I take time to do that quite a lot. And I read and have a very good routine to, remove myself from work or even set myself up from work to work. I think that's kind of really helped me. So yeah, I think I have a really good work-life balance. I think I've just always decided that I wasn't gonna not enjoy the thing that I do pretty much 80% of our lives. It's quite a long time, right?
Yeah, no, it's good to try and find that passion, isn't it? And find that thing that you enjoy. And as we touched on earlier, so you've moved into a new area which you are passionate about the sustainable data, sustainable analysis. So how did that happen? What is that? Tell me a bit about the new area of work and what makes you passionate about it.
So I never heard about ESG until a couple of years ago. It was part of the new role that I'd stepped into. And maybe after about 6 months of being there, I was talking to one of the product managers who was launching this new product. So I was like, okay, let me learn a little bit about what she's doing. And it was this ESG, environmental, social, and governance data set that was being integrated into the platform. And just from that, I was like, the word environmental really resonated with me. And so I wanted to learn a bit more about what that really and truly meant. And I just delved into this world of sustainable finance. And it was just so fascinating. It's one area within this entire framework of financial services that is specifically about, not doing harm to environments, not doing harm to social communities, and having good governance practices. So it really is encouraging better behavior for companies and what they're doing with their money. And so I was working with her in kind of helping establish a marketing and sales campaign to help get this product launched. And as part of that, I was just doing more and more research into what that really and truly meant. And it's such a wide scope of, conversation, because, environmental, again, is talking about biodiversity, animal cruelty, all sorts of stuff like that, forest burning, marine life, everything. And then you've got the social aspect, which is specifically looking at, what are you doing around human rights? What do you do about child labor? There's governance practices regarding board representation, diversity and inclusion within the governance sector. So it's just so many different opportunities to learn and really understand the way that finance can influence and impact the world and people around it. So I started doing these night courses to get a certification as a sustainable finance practitioner or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but something like that. That would really help me transition into that being my next kind of career journey. And yeah, I just kind of said to myself, this is the space that I really want to be in. I think there's so much surrounding regulation at the moment as well, which is where I spent 8 years of my career. And so I could really lend my voice to, or my knowledge to understanding more about how ESG fits in with regulations and frameworks and, different international differences regarding, ESG and how people interpret that. Again, I would have some view on that from being in the UK and Europe versus being in the US too. And so, yeah, I just kind of firstly looked inside my own organization for some opportunities, and there was a lot of stuff happening at the company at that point in time that really kind of just said to me, if you're going to change, just do something really drastic. So that ended up with me, looking outside the company. The role that I actually applied for was based in Zurich. So my initial plan was to move to Zurich, but then Brexit happened and couldn't quite easily do that. So I came back to London and I joined this new company that I'm working on, Rep Risk. And so, yeah, I've been kind of working in that space for a little while. My remit is around partnerships. So I'm looking at strategic partnerships to help us kind of elevate the access that people have to ESG data.
I can't hear you. I just went a little bit out there. Yeah, just that last bit I couldn't hear. But that, I mean, I didn't know so much about sustainable finance and data. So before we talked tonight, I thought that was really interesting to know a little bit more. I think we don't always now analyze it, being the sort of layperson, unless you're in the area, and more of a sort of, more of a actual professional who knows more about that specific area. So it's very interesting to know a bit more about that and how that all integrates in our world and the sort of in the financial areas. If I was thinking really about, you've tried a lot of different things. You've well, within one big strand, but some little mini strands within there. You've tried things and you've moved around. Now we've got. Is there any particular advice you'd give to an alum, a recent graduate who's trying to find their mojo, trying to find the thing they want to do? So any, from your experience, what any little sort of nuggets or little tips you could give them?
Definitely. I think the biggest thing that's benefited me, that I would always say to other people, is just to really be open to opportunities, to say yes, but providing you have the capacity to do it. Like, definitely say yes if someone presents you with something, even if it's just to, I don't know, go to some after work drinks, right? Like something as basic as that, because you really don't know who you're going to meet at these types of engagements. And I remember at the start of my career, I was involved, I signed up to various different like women in technology groups, and they would just, I think they were free actually. And they would have like these after work activities, whether it was at that time it was in person, so cocktail evening, or it was like a specific talk around some kind of technology, or it was an event hosted by a bank and they were talking about women in technology. And so I would just go along to those by myself and like meet a whole bunch of people and learn something really new and interesting, and then I could bring that to whoever I was going to be speaking to next. So I think definitely immerse yourself into that world, and go to networking opportunities and anything that would allow you to learn. And then I would also say be very conscious of like sharing what you have with other people as well. I think I've always, wherever I've kind of gone, and if I've met someone who could help someone else, I've always tried to make introductions. And that again just helps kind of like broaden your network and kind of gets you seen as a giver, and people like givers, and so that kind of helps you again, like when it comes to taking new opportunities and being invited to things, or sharing certain types of information. Definitely be cognizant of that, see who you can help connect, because they can probably help connect you as well.
Yeah, I like that those tips, because that sort of giving to other people is also they'll give to you. Hopefully there's the two-way thing, isn't it? And opening those relationships and not being possessive of information, or and that means that's sort of excluding people. So I like that sort of connectivity, and opportunity is a great tip as well. Often you go, oh, do I want to do? But no, just it's worth it, isn't it? You pick up things from most things you do. Pick up some new things. Yeah. All right, that's really nice. That's really good little nuggets there to share. What are your next steps then? I mean, you've come into a new career, I suppose, so it's the beginning of a new bit. But is there any particular drivers you've got still that you see for the future?
So I mean, I'm in a very new space of financial services to me. So that's really cool, and I definitely want to continue to build my career down this route. I think there's a lot of if I look at people who are leading in this space, there's a lot of opportunity there. So one thing that I have been thinking about for some time, and I just hadn't really know what the subject I wanted it to be, was to study again. So I think I'm looking at maybe doing a master's, or maybe doing some sort of certification in sustainability and in like some kind of sustainable economics kind of thing. So that's one aspect. The other thing is that I would really like to explore the APAC region from a business perspective as well. So finding business opportunities within Asia, and really learning about that part of the world from an international business perspective. That's something that's on my agenda, maybe not in the near future, but definitely something I would like to do at some point in time.
Sounds great. Sounds you've got some good aspirations there to you know, to have what the next step would be, and have a further direction. And it's good, always good to think about that, isn't it? To think about, I'm happy here, but I would like to do that, and be able to mix the two in the future. Sounds great. So no studying back at Brooks then?
Oh, well, if you have a sustainability course, I'll probably do that. I could do that.
Excellent. Well, it'd be great to see you come back. That sounds really good. So you know, we've you know, it's been a really interesting hearing about your journey, and about how you've got where you've got, and your future, and I'm sure it's going to be very rosy. You've got you know, you've done a lot of, you've found a little niche at the moment which you're liking, which is great to hear and see. And you know, the alumni who are listening, you know, if I wonder whether there's any questions from our audience. We've got participants listening, our alumni, probably from different places where around the world. We've got a global community. So I wonder, is there any questions from our audience? If you have any, you could pop them in the Q&A section or in the chat, and we can have a look at them. I wonder where you're based. You post where you're based. That's always quite interesting, isn't it? Thinking about different professions.
My crowd today.
Everyone's shy. That's fine. If you had anything, put it, you know, for Maryse to answer, if you post it now. But if not, you know, it's been a really interesting conversation about where you started at Brooks, and how your, you know, career's progressed. And I'm particularly interested, as you know, about the development of the ethnic and diverse groups you've worked on, and been able to set them up. Oh, we've got a question. So oh, here we go. Thanks for the presentation. I'm in charge of management, and I'm passionate about diversity, culture, and sustainability, and the ways of doing things. What do you think I can bring into the fold of what I am doing? Oh, Mandisa, she's in charge of management, but she's passionate about diversity, culture, and sustainable ways of doing things. Ooh.
Okay, she's in change management, so that's a really cool place to be, because all of this is about change, right? So I would say, like, you know, first of all, maybe try to identify some of the gaps within your organization or your teams. If there's something you think that they could be doing better or should be thinking about, identify what those are, and then find the right people to maybe present that information to. So maybe you do have, I don't know what company you're working for, but a corporate sustainability group, or maybe even an employee network around that, and bring those types of ideas to them. And if there isn't one, then find someone who maybe could sponsor you, and maybe set it up yourself. I mean, that's what we ended up doing with the Black Employees Network at the Stock Exchange. But I think most of the time with these things, you can't just say, oh, I want to do this. You have to say why you're doing it and what the impact is going to be. So maybe do take the time to kind of research that, and see what the change is, and how that's going to impact both people in the company and the company itself. There's a lot of research that talks about what diversity and cultural change can really improve from a career perspective, from talent retention, talent like acquisition as well. And so I would kind of maybe work on something like that. Oh, if you're an independent consultant, well, yeah, again, depending on who you're trying to influence, I would always say try to look for the gaps and maybe come up with the idea of what you're hoping to propose, and who that's going to impact. And people are normally really willing to listen when they can see a positive result in the back of something you're proposing. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that sounds very good. That sounds a good way forward. Thank you. So yes, you saw that she's an independent consultant. Oh, and she studied urban design and graduated in '95. Oh, welcome. Nice to hear you. Nice to meet you virtually. That's great. Okay. Well, we got yeah, really nice to hear from you. So, you know, that was very interesting advice, and that's you know, particularly what she'll be working on with the Sims of things, the diversity. So that's thank you for advising her on that. So anyone else? We could have a minute or two more. Oh, that's fine. If no one else has a question, that brings us to the end of tonight. And we have had a very interesting discussion, and I want to say thank you very much, Maryse, to your giving your time for Oxford Brookes alumni community. And it's been interesting to hear your journey, and I hope you the best for the next step.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and I really appreciate it. And I wish everybody luck on their next journey as well.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. And for everyone who's attending tonight, we are in the middle of the series, and we will have another webinar next Tuesday, which is our Imam Munawar Hussain, and he's going to be talking about his journey from being an Imam to High Sheriff of Oxfordshire. So join at the same time, 5 o'clock next Tuesday. And you're welcome to join as well, Maryse.
Oh, I do. Sounds interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you for everybody for attending, and a big thank you for Maryse. And hopefully we'll be keeping in contact with you in your journey. I'd like that. And I'll say good night to everybody, and have a good evening. Okay. Bye-bye.